Struggling to pay your child support? Are not receiving any? Need a modification? Has the Department of Revenue filed a case against you? Don't face this alone. If you are dealing with a child support problem, a knowledgeable family law attorney may be able to help you solve it. Let us help so you can focus on being the best parent you can be. Stress less. Choose more.
Good afternoon. My name is Conti Moore Smith, and I am a family law attorney here in the Central Florida area. And I am excited to have this conversation today about family law and domestic violence. And I'm excited that we have Cabby here to help us with the conversation. So Cabby, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Cabby Brooks. I am a licensed clinical social worker and psychotherapist, also in the Central Florida area, providing services all across the state of Florida.
Okay, well, thank you, Cabby, for joining us. I reached out to Cabby last week because my heart was heavy. I've been seeing on the news different stories about women losing their lives, children losing their lives, domestic violence, divorce proceedings, and I just thought that it was time for us to have a conversation about it. It's hard to turn on the news, right? And it's hard to hear about what happened in Shreveport, Louisiana, with it was 8 children and the mother there. In Virginia, what happened with the mother in that case, and even in West Palm Beach with the commissioner losing her life. And so I want this to be a conversation that can hopefully help someone that is experiencing domestic violence, are experiencing a spouse that is showing some sort of mental health issues or concerns. And so we just want to have that conversation and to have this be a resource to those out there that need it. So Cabby, as a family law attorney, I'm sure you can imagine that we get a lot of clients who are claiming that they are victims of domestic violence. What advice would you give someone that is trying to leave from a toxic relationship? Because I understand and I know that when you leave, that can be sometimes the most dangerous time. So talk to us about what advice you give to those who are trying to get out of a toxic relationship.
Yeah, I think you're right on point. You know, the most dangerous part of a relationship is when it's ending or when one party decides that it's going to leave. So I would advise for you to always have a strategy when you're leaving, especially if you have experienced domestic violence in the relationship or emotional abuse in the relationship before, or like you said, you're dealing with a partner that has that's not mentally well. I believe that a good strategy is, always good in that. Looks like making sure that you have built some type of support system that can help you with your strategy, and also breaking the silence. Finding that trusted person that's not going to blow up your life, right? Because it's not always good to let the person that is doing the abusing know that you're leaving, because that could be detrimental. As you stated, the several cases that we had just here in April, a lot of those women were probably strategizing to leave, and the abuser got wind of it, and they wanted to make sure that they stayed or didn't leave. And so having that trusted person that you can talk to that will help you in your strategy or serve as that safe place for you to go when you do decide, to pull the plug and leave that situation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I know when we are talking with our clients, we talk about the importance of documentation. Sometimes when you get to court, it's hard because you don't always report every act of domestic violence.
Right.
So sometimes when you get to court, they're asking you, or the other side is asking you, especially in injunction hearings, well, did you report it? Did you report it? Did you report it? And you're like, well, no, no. So it's from the legal side of it, it's kind of important to document it, to have a paper trail, take pictures or some sort of documentation to substantiate your claims that you were, hurt by this person.
Right.
But then you have to also balance that by them not getting wind of it and then trying to hurt you more. So it's a hard line to kind of walk when
Right.
you're giving advice. So like, what are your thoughts on, how to help someone with that?
So as I stated, definitely have a strategy, but the steps that you can take now, and I want women to remember, that this is gonna take stepping into your bravery just a little bit more, because it is really hard to leave, especially when you've been under this type of environment for so long. So a step that they can take right now is just to make sure, like you said, that they are documenting everything: dates, incidents, texts, photos, witnesses. Make sure that they tell someone, so maybe an incident happened yesterday and then you go out to the doctor, the day after. Tell your doctor, tell someone, so that these things are documented, because you might not be in the safest place, especially if you're not intending to leave right then, to tell someone and they call the police, or to call the police and then you stay. So when you've made the decision that you are definitely leaving, you want to begin that documentation, and make sure that you are breaking the silence again, and making sure that witnesses can attest to, hey, yes, in August she did tell me that her eye was black, or he did tell me, that she hit him with something. And so also reach out to your local DV advocacy. That's a step that you can take right now, today. And if not today, again, strategy. A lot of us have OBGYN appointments for women. When you go to your next OBGYN appointment, most of the times they give you exams. And so you want to make sure that you tell your doctor, hey, I would like my exam, with no one in the room. When you have that doctor by yourself, ask for help. And maybe you don't want them to call the police, but maybe they can help you get on a phone call to a DV advocate that can put some strategies in place for you and help you when your partner's not around. So everybody's not alone, and everybody, some partners they keep tabs on the person that they're abusing. And so you're not always able to have that alone time, but any moment that you can get alone. And most of the time we can do that when we're at our doctor's appointments.
No, that's true. So can we talk about how some victims can normalize the behavior, right? That their spouse is what they're doing to them. I think that is important, because we see a lot of clients who are like, oh, it's not that bad. Oh, or he was just upset, and you kind of normalize what they're saying, when in reality it's awful what they're doing. Right. So what can you just kind of give us some insight on how that works with people who are, victims of domestic violence, and them normalizing the behavior of their partner?
Absolutely. If you ever, and this can be in a relationship where you're being abused, or one when you're not being abused, just to know if you're emotionally safe. If you are ever blaming yourself for the behavior of someone else, then 9 times out of 10, that person has some mental wellness issues, or they are emotionally or psychologically abusing you, And so especially in a domestic violence situation, if you are blaming yourself for that person's behavior, there's nothing in the world that you should be able to do that justifies someone putting their hands on you. And so just take a step back and think about your own behaviors, and think about, if you're doing that, are you saying that because you didn't have the kitchen clean, that's why, you received a hit, or that's why you were called out your name and things like that. So that nothing that you can do justifies someone emotionally abusing you, or definitely not physically abusing you.
Okay. And what are some red flags in your experience that someone's spouse has some mental health issues? Like, what are the behaviors that kind of stand out? Like, what are some
one thing that you can look for is gaslighting. When you know that you know something is true, and then that person tries to talk you out of the fact that it's true, your partner is probably dealing with some mental wellness issues. Another thing is, if your partner does not want you to be out of their sight, then there's a codependency string that has been tied. And, healthy people aren't necessarily codependent. And so, if there's a codependency issue, if you have been removed from your community of people. So if you look around, you no longer have friends that can come to the house. You no longer have friends that you can go out with. You no longer are able to call your mom, your sister, with that person in your company. Then you have probably stepped into a domestic violence issue, or you're dealing with a partner that's not mentally well.
Okay. And so isolation, right? Them trying to isolate you. is a sign that there could be some issues going on.
Yeah. So look around. Look around. Do you have a community of people around you? If you are not comfortable having a community of people around you because of the partner that you're with, then you're probably in some type of emotional or domestic violence situation, and at least your partner's probably dealing with some form of mental illness.
Okay. All right. And so how important, like I tell my clients, and I know my attorneys at my firm, we tell the clients that it's important for you to go to get some help, to have a professional talk with you. I know you talk about domestic violence advocates, but like a therapist even, to kind of help you realize that it's not you.
Right.
So how can therapy play a role in helping someone that is dealing with being a victim of domestic violence?
Yeah. Therapy plays its best part once the person has left their partner, to do that rebuilding. I do a lot of that in my practice, but prior to you leaving and you have the space to have 30 minutes to yourself, 45 minutes or an hour to yourself, therapy can definitely help you understand what your strengths are and how you may have stepped into a situation like this in the beginning. We go back to figure out, were you in an abusive home growing up? What has caused you to not want to speak up for yourself and those types of things. So we can break down those barriers and help you understand why you function the way that you function. And then definitely on the back end, once you've left, there's a rebuilding that can take place so that you don't find yourself in this type of situation again.
No, absolutely. So in general, like what tips would you give? Like if I'm like, hey, these are some tips for someone who is trying to leave, they are being abused physically and emotionally by their spouse. Like what tips would you give them? Like you need to do this, this, and this.
Actionable tips that you can do today: break the silence and let someone know what's going on with you. The second thing is connect to a domestic violence advocate. They are skilled. This is the only thing usually that they do. They are skilled in helping you leave, helping you to remain safe, and helping you to flee a partner that is abusing you. And I'll definitely make sure that, we get that information out in the comments for some domestic violence advocates and shelters here in the state of Florida. So those would be my main two. I think once you're in the hands of that person that does this every day, as far as a domestic violence advocate, you're in really good hands. And like I stated, even if you are one of those partners that can't be by yourself, like they just don't give you any room to breathe. Sometimes the telephones are taken. You don't have a cell phone while they're at work. Use your doctor as your next best resource, because they know exactly what to do in situations like this as well.
And then I would say the third tip would be to reach out to a therapist to help you rebuild.
Yes.
Because I know that a lot of our clients that are victims, their confidence is low.
Absolutely.
They're, they kind of like broke you down for years and you don't feel like you can do anything without them. And so I think really having that therapist to help you build yourself back up and to kind of help you manage your new normal would be helpful. Would be very
and a domestic violence advocate is going to make sure that you have access to all of those things. I really I've worked with them while working in child welfare. They're like my best friends, to make sure that that woman can leave safely and then start that process of rebuilding. And that does, first thing they do, they'll connect you with a therapist. And I'm always available, to help in that capacity.
So can you talk, since you're familiar with the domestic violence advocate, can you just kind of talk about like, what do they do?
Yeah, sure. So domestic violence advocate, the first thing that they do is they help you get a burner phone a lot of times. And I hate to put too much information out there, but they give you access to be able to reach the outside world. And so that may come via a burner phone. They're going to know your partner's schedule. Every move that he makes, they make sure that they learn that so that they know when the safe points are for them to talk to you. If you are at that point where you want to leave, they're definitely going to be putting strategies in place to make sure that you have a go bag, to make sure that your kids are secured, so that when it's time to go, there's not a whole lot. You don't have to pack up the whole house. They'll help you strategize so that when it's time to go, you simply just go. A lot of times they help you find shelters, even if that means fleeing that state to go to another state to rebuild your life away from that person. That's what they do.
And are they free resources, or do they cost? Are they expensive? Like, talk to me about that.
I've never met one that costs. So most domestic violence advocate, if you call your local, we call it DCF here. They have a non-judicial department. So that means, a lot of people don't want to call because they're afraid that if I call and say that I've been abused, they're going to take my kids. And that's not necessarily true. If you are safe and you're protective and you're taking that step to protect you and your children, you don't really have to worry about that a whole lot. But people don't trust that all the time. Right. And so they have the non-judicial side of DCF that you can call to get help, and they will connect you with a domestic violence advocate unit that they specialize in that. So that'll be somebody that's specifically yours, that'll help you strategize on how to leave and how to get to safety.
I did not know about that. That's I'm glad that we had this conversation.
They're amazing.
Yeah. So we'll come back, and if we don't have it now, we'll drop in the chat the different resources on social media, on our YouTube. We'll drop it on the YouTube and on our Facebook so that people can get access to these domestic violence advocates and to be able to reach out and get help, because it's really a scary time when it's in a month's time we're hearing about these constant, suicides and all these things that are happening. And so how do we, even if we're not in a domestic violence situation, like how can we protect our peace, and how can we help our friends who may be in that situation? I know we can listen to them, but I know sometimes people I have a strong personality, so they may not have, girl, leave. Well, I can't leave. So what advice can you give to a friend who's trying to help someone that's in a domestic violence situation?
I would definitely say two major things. So first thing is to have grace for that person, because like you said, I'm a strong personality like you as well. And so that takes a lot for them to even think about the leaving part. And remember, they've been under this for so long. This is their normal. So they don't know that something else better can exist. They don't trust that something else exists. So provide them some grace. And then the second thing is be a safe place for them. If you're able to help or be that person that comes over when a domestic violence advocate needs to talk to them, and you can take your cell phone, be that person that won't necessarily blow up their life, but you're helping them to transition to leave as well. So those are the two major things, that I would say. And to the women that are, being abused and they're thick into this, I just want them to know that, your babies will be okay if you leave, because a lot of them don't think that their children will be okay. They'll be okay because they have you, and you're going to make sure that they're okay. And then if you can today, just take one step. And that one step could be contacting that domestic violence advocate, or begin documenting all of the things that's taking place in your home. That can be your one step.
Right. No, absolutely. I know that a lot of our clients, feel like that they need to have that father or that other parent in their lives, but if they're abusive, right? It might be better for the kids to see a happier home, a more healthy home where there's not so much abuse and trauma.
Yeah. And children thrive when they have one person with an irrational love for them. That's all they need. So if you're that person, everything else around them, they don't really even need. That home, the car that you like riding in, whatever it is, a partner, they need one person with an irrational love for them to thrive. And if you're that person that can leave that abusive home with them and love them irrationally, then your children will thrive. They don't need much more than that.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, Cabby, how can people reach out to you for your services? What's the best way to reach you?
So the best way to reach me is cabbybrooks.com. The second best way is to just give me a phone call, 321-328-0422. If I am in session, because I am a therapist in private practice, if I'm in session, just leave me a message. I will give you a call back.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Also, if you need help with the legal side of a divorce or custody or time sharing issue, you can reach out to my firm. We're Conti Moore Law, PLLC, here in Orlando, Florida. We service all counties surrounding Orlando, Florida. You can reach us at 407-831-0203 or at contimorelaw.com. As a result of this, we are going to create a resource page on our website, and we're going to get the resources from Cabby, from other sources. It's also my understanding that you can also call the non-emergency line for the police department or the sheriff's department, and they have resources available to those who need help as well. So what we're going to do is, in response to all this sadness and things that have happened is we're going to make sure that we put together resources and a page on Conti Moore Law that will have resources that you can go and look through and to help you if you're a victim, to help you get some help that you need. So Cabby, I appreciate you so much for taking time. I called you last week. I was like, hey, can we do this? And without any hesitation, you said yes. So I want us to continue to have these conversations and to be a resource to those who are in need. So if you're watching, thank you for joining. We will take all the resources and get them on our website at contimoorlaw.com. And we will also go back and put them in the comments on our YouTube and Facebook page. Go ahead, Cabby.
Can I say one thing, just in case a woman is listening to this and they don't have access to maybe the resources that we're going to post, the domestic violence hotline is 1-800-500-1119. So it's 1-800-500-1119.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that we put something out just in case they don't get to come back and look in the comments.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you to all that have joined us or who joined us. And I hope that everyone has a good day and that we see less victims losing their lives as a result of domestic violence. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Conti.
Thank you.